What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Colton Posey Fishing. Today we're going to be talking about my best July baits, my favorite July baits to throw. These are the baits that I'm typically going to make sure that I always pretty much have on the front deck of my boat in July. So when I think about July, I'm thinking high metabolisms. I'm thinking fish feeding up. I'm thinking fish are just going to be chasing left and right, looking for something to eat, whether they're in the shallows in the creeks or whether they're out on the main lake. So we're going to cover every bit of that. This is my favorite time of year to fish. This is the time of year I love putting people on the water because you just catch a lot of fish and you catch them in a lot of fun ways. So, you know, I understand the boat traffic's very, very busy and it can be frustrating out there, but this is that great time to be out on the water and catch fish top water all day long. So either way, stick around because this is something you don't want to miss. Now, before we jump into everything, guys, I do want to thank this video's sponsor, which is Tolos. Tolos is a trailer rental company. They don't rent trailers as far as renting from a company, but you actually rent trailers from individuals in your area. What you do is you go on your Google Play Store or your Apple Store and you download the Tolos app. If you have a trailer that's just sitting in your yard, you want to make passive income, you list that trailer on Tolos. People like you in that area that may be looking for a trailer but don't want to spend $3,000 to $4,000 on a trailer, you can just rent it from individuals in your area. Make sure to download the Tolos app. So one of the more fun baits that I want to talk about, because there's never a bad time to catch fish on a frog, and that's going to be frogs. Now, I've got a couple different frogs that I want to talk about. One of the first ones that I have a lot of good luck on, especially in like willow grass and stuff like that. Anywhere that I can throw this frog and it allows for the back to kick. So whether that's milfoil that's kind of matted on top, but it's got some open spots and stuff, that's going to be that Spro kicking frog. Thing right here, you just throw it out there, reel it, those legs. It's kind of like the old ribbit frog. It just kicks a lot. And these are really tough. You know, I was kind of scared when I was buying them. I was like, how much are they going to tear up? You can see there's some bite marks on the leg and stuff. I've had this for going on a year now, caught tons of fish off of it. They are durable, they're very durable, but you know, if you want to, you know, give them a little bit of a different look while using a frog, just try out the kicking frog, okay? This just makes it so simple, you don't have to rig it yourself or anything. It comes out of the pack just like this, tie it on, throw it, reel it. Now your next one's gonna be your standard frog, but which is just like this. This is a frog made by Thunderhawk. Now there's one thing that I want to talk about when it comes to frogs. You've got some that, you know, like the regular Spro frogs, you throw it out there, you pop it, it's silent, it walks, it kicks, or not kicks, but it dives and does all that jazz that we like and that the fish see a lot. That's one of the main things, that the fish see a lot. One of the things that I try to do consistently is try to figure out something that the fish hadn't seen or heard in a while. And that's one of the cool things is if you can find a frog that's got a rattle in it, which is what this has, there's actually a rattle in this. You can actually insert rattles in the bottom of your frogs and stuff like that. But a lot of times it triggers fish to bite because it's a different sound. It helps these fish hone in, especially in that thick matted grass. When they hear that rattle and stuff, it just, a lot of times it makes it so much easier for the fish to identify exactly where that bait is. Because if you've noticed, a lot of times fishing with a frog, you may throw in a spot, a fish come up, blow up on it, miss it, or either you throw, you know, that frog over there one time, no bites, throw it second time, no bite, third time, you throw it in the same spot, bam, they finally get it. Sometimes they're actually hunting for that bait and they can't find it. So sometimes putting a rattle or BBs or anything like that inside your frog to give it a little bit different sound, you know, it just triggers a lot more bites. Now, one of my favorite things to throw right now, whether I'm on a river system or a lake or anything like that, that's going to be a swim jig, okay? There's a couple different swim jigs that I like to use. Y'all have heard me talk about them. Dirty jigs and the Strike King Hack Attack. Hack Attack for heavy cover, dirty jigs around, you know, docks or anything, somewhere that's a little bit cleaner where I'm not having to throw up in that super heavy cover. There's quite a few different things that you can throw on the back of a swim jig, whether, you know, that's like the speed crawl that I told you all about when we were talking in the swim jigs video, and then, you know, we talked about the Z-Man with the kick and tail, whether you want to use that or something like a rage swimmer or something like that. But this one I've actually tried out over the past few weeks and I've had a lot of success off of it. But that's this Yamamoto hinge minnow, okay? The hinge minnow has got like a little slash in the middle of it. It's kind of like a fluke style. But I'm sure you've heard a lot of us guys talk about doing the Alabama shake with a swim jig. While you're reeling it, you're shaking it at the same time. That causes that swim jig to kind of stutter as it goes across the water. One thing that I've learned with that hinge minnow is when you're doing that Alabama shake and you do it a little more aggressively with that hinge minnow on there, it causes that bait to kind of kick and swim like it's actually swimming through the water column. It's a very, very neat action, and I found situations where it really, really shines, especially in clear, clean water, and I've found situations where, like in that dirtier water, they have a little bit of difficult time not finding it, but they have a hard time as far as getting it because that bait's kind of going here, there, and everywhere. So, you know, if you're looking for a little bit different trailer to try on your clear water fishery, definitely check out that hinge minnow by Yamamoto. The next one's going to be the bees and the knees. This is my favorite way to catch fish, period, and that's top water, because I love watching these fish come up and absolutely destroy anything that I throw on the surface. But, you know, walking baits is going to be a definite killer this time of year. It's just a great way to mimic shad that's running close to the surface. And here's what a lot of people don't understand. When you see these fish blowing up on the surface of these shad, with these shad and stuff, they're typically not, the shad's not just sitting right below the surface, directly below the surface. A lot of times. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. These shad are actually sitting like a foot to 2 foot down. And a lot of times when they do that, these bass will come up and they actually push the shad up against the surface because the shad can't go anywhere once they get to the surface, and the bass start feeding on them. So when you're picking your top water walking bait, think of it like this. You're using it to say, hey, there's shad on the surface over here, you need to come over here and eat this. Or you see fish that's already blown up and you want to mimic exactly what they're doing at that exact moment. There's two that I really, really like to run. As far as color wise, number one, if we're dealing with clean, clear water, the two that I'm going to pick is either A, chrome, or B, a clear one with a feathered treble hook on the back. Adds contrast to the water, something for them to target. It looks like a small bait fish. Dealing with cloudy days, kind of a muddier situation, bone or a sexy shad, something wide, okay? And here's the thing, don't get caught up on all the colors. The only side that you need to worry about is the bottom. Okay, bottom, they're not going to see the top until they bite it and pull it under, okay? All they're seeing is the bottom of the bait. So you're white, you're clear, and you're chrome. That'll cover all bases and you don't have to go buy a crap ton of them. But as I'm working this bait this time of year, I'm working it extremely fast. Pop, 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 never stopping hardly. Sometimes now if I'm working grass lines and stuff and I feel like those fish are kind of pulled slightly in the grass and I can't get that walking bait up in that grass, then a lot of times I will pause it on the edge of a grass line. But if I'm running open water like y'all seen me do for years, then, you know, I'm working that bait super fast. High metabolisms, they're highly active. I need to give them something to react to, and that's what I'm going to do with that top water bait. Next one, we're going to talk about crankbaits, okay? There's multiple different crankbaits you can buy, but this time of year I really like my 5 and my 6 XDs. A lot of my Strike King baits, you know, all the way down to my Series 3s. And, you know, why is that? The Strike King plastic baits, they have a hard hunting action. They have a very hard hunting action. They're going to go here, they're going to go there, they're going to be all over the place, bumping, rolling. And, you know, it's just one of those real erratic movements that these fish can't stand, and they typically bite. Now, I like going with the 5 and the 6 XDs if I'm fishing deeper water, obviously, but I'm going to pick up that round bill crankbait when those fish are positioned on bottom. You ever saw fish positioned on bottom and you throw a jig at them and you just can't get them to bite? They're following it, they may bump it, but they're just not getting it. A lot of times you got to get those fish stirred up. Once you get one to bite, you can get the rest of them to bite for a few minutes. That's what I'm trying to do with that crankbait. I find that school of fish, I see them positioned on bottom, I burn that bait through them at different angles until I figure out the angle they want, and then catch 4 or 5 out of that school. But the key this time of year is, with that water temperature getting higher, you can't reel that bait fast enough. You can crank that joker down. Most of the time when I'm cranking those crankbaits, when I have people in my boat that's never really fished with crankbaits, don't know much about crankbaits and stuff like that, and they go out with me wanting to learn about crankbaits and stuff, I'm cranking it so fast that a lot of them's like, there's no way they can hit that. A few minutes later I start catching fish off of it and they're like, oh my gosh. And they pick it up and start cranking like that and they're like, this is amazing. It'll wear you out, but it is very, very fun. So make sure when you're using those baits this time of year, crank them down, burn them, get them to the bottom as quick as you can and get that bait through those fish as quick as you can, because they only have two choices once you get it down there. They either got to get out of the way or bite, and most of the time they're going to choose to eat it. Next one's going to be square bills. You're going to have a lot of fish, a lot of post spawn fish this time of year, early in July. That's going, and the square bill will kind of, it never really goes away, okay? It never really goes away. So, you know, the square bill is going to be perfect for later in July when those fish push out off of the grass lines and stuff, boat traffic picks up and they're out there suspending. You need to catch them, you know, a lot of times when they suspend out there, they could be suspended 10 or 12 foot, but they'll come up and feed at 5 to 6. So, you know, having a square bill that'll get down to like 5 or 6 foot, 4, 5, 6 foot or something like that, it just looks very natural, and that's typically a depth that they feel comfortable feeding on. So that's kind of where we're going to play off of this later in July. This time of year in July, I'm looking for those post spawners that are pushed right off of those secondary points, right off of those areas where, you know, it looks like they would be right up against the bank, but there may be a brush pile a couple feet off the bank that they're pushed down to, which is like 3 to 4 foot. And this is a great way to run over them, run over that cover and stuff like that, and, you know, just trigger a lot more bites. But there's two square bills that I really like to use. If I'm fishing creeks, if I'm going in the creeks, working secondary points and stuff like that, I'm typically 99% of the time, unless I see a bunch of shad around, I'm going to be throwing a bluegill color. You will just catch a lot of fish off of bluegill color this time of year. And then if I'm dealing with, you know, out closer towards the main lake and I know there's a bunch of shad and stuff around, or if I'm on a secondary point and there's a bunch of shad around, then I'm going to throw something like a shad color. There's a couple different brands that I like to use. I like the Excite, I like Lucky Strike, I like Lucky Craft and Strike King. Those are probably my top ones that I'm going to pick. Use whatever brand you feel comfortable with. Just be confident in it. You'll catch fish off of it either way. But just a little slide technique here that you can take and put in your back pocket in case the fishing does get really tough on you in July and you see those fish, you know, blowing up or in the shallows, but you can't really get them to bite. Maybe you're carrying your kid out and you just want them to catch a bunch of fish. Don't forget a weightless worm. Just nose hook a weightless worm on a spinning outfit and just work it across the surface really quickly, and you will catch a ton of fish that way also. It's a great technique that I love to use, especially if I need to build confidence, you know, that I'm around fish or something like that I can't get to bite. Then that is a great way to do it. But, you know, either way, guys, I really appreciate you stopping by. If the video helps you at all, make sure to hit that thumbs up button, hit that subscribe button. I got content coming out for you every week. Comment down below, let me know your favorite baits to use in July. Are you going to be fishing this July, or are you fishing at night, or what are you doing? Because I know the boat traffic stirs up a lot of people. So either way, guys, let me know down below. I love talking fish with you guys. I'll see you next time.